The key wouldn't turn. Marcus Webb tried it 3 times outside the brick duplex on Forest Avenue in East Atlanta, jiggling it the way he had for 2 years, before he understood the lock wasn't sticking. It was new. Brass unscratched, a hardware store sticker still gummed to the strike plate. He stepped back and saw the porch. 6 trash bags lined up against the railing like sandbags before a storm. Black contractor bags, the heavy-duty kind, cinched tight. One had split at the bottom, and a sleeve of his Carhartt jacket hung out of the tier, sleeve down, like it was reaching for him. He didn't call out. He didn't bang on the door. He stood on the steps he'd resealed himself last spring and looked at his life folded into garbage bags at 6:40 in the morning. His phone buzzed. "I've outgrown this, don't make it ugly. K." 4 words and an initial, not even her full name. He read it twice, the way you check a number on a receipt that can't be right, and then he sat down on the top step among his own belongings because his legs asked him to before his mind caught up. He thought first, stupidly, about the walk-in freezer. $11,000, his loan, his signature. He remembered Kayla standing in that cold metal box in March, breath fogging, both of them laughing because the compressor hummed too loud to talk over. "This is ours," she'd said. He'd repeated those words to himself on the worst nights since, telling himself it was building toward something with both their names on it. He called her. It rang twice and went to voicemail, the kind of fast decline that meant she'd pressed the button herself. A neighbor, Mrs. Prout, came out for her newspaper in a robe and looked at him sideways, then at the bags, then back inside without a word. She'd seen him carry in catering trays at midnight for 3 years. She didn't ask if he was all right. People in this neighborhood had learned not to ask. Marcus stood, lifted the bags 2 at a time, and loaded them into the bed of his Silverado, the same truck he'd used to haul 40 pounds of king crab legs to a wedding in Buckhead 8 months ago, off the clock. Because Kayla's delivery driver canceled. He didn't fold the clothes. He didn't sort through what stayed and what went. He just moved the way you move when stopping means thinking. When the bed was full, he sat in the driver's seat with the door open, one boot still on the asphalt, and looked at the duplex one more time. The kitchen light was on. He could see, through the window over the sink, the espresso machine he'd bought her for her birthday, sitting exactly where it always sat. He didn't go up the steps again. He didn't text back. He started the truck, and for 11 minutes he drove without deciding where, until he realized he was already turning onto Memorial Drive, toward the boutique, toward Kayla's kitchen table, the storefront with his hours and his money inside its. Walls dark at this hour, the open sign turned face down in the window like it was hiding from him too. He parked across the street and didn't go in. He just sat, engine off, hands on the wheel, watching a building he'd helped pay for breathe without him inside it. Renee Caldwell worked out of a strip mall office on Ponce de Leon, sandwiched between a nail salon and a check cashing place. The kind of office that didn't waste money on appearances because the clients who mattered already knew her name. Marcus hadn't slept. He still had on the same shirt from the warehouse, and he set a folder on her desk, old lease, old loan papers, anything with his signature on it, and asked her one question. "Can she just cut me out, even though I paid for half of it?" Renee didn't answer right away. She pulled up the Georgia Secretary of State business portal on her monitor, typed Kayla's Kitchen Table LLC, and the filing history loaded in seconds. "There's an amendment," she said, "filed in October." October 8 months ago. Marcus remembered October, 3 weeks of mandatory overtime, 60-hour stretches, falling asleep in the break room with a sandwich still in his hand. He remembered almost nothing else about it. Renee turned the monitor toward him. "This removes you as a listed financial contributor. Says here you authorized it." There was his name typed, and beneath it a signature. He leaned in. It wasn't his handwriting. The M curled wrong. He'd signed his name on lease documents, loan applications, a tattoo waiver once for fun. He knew his own M, and this one looped like someone copying from a photo, careful and a little too neat. "That's not me," he said. Renee didn't flinch, didn't gasp, didn't tell him it was going to be okay. She just nodded once, like a woman confirming what she already suspected, and clicked into another tab. There's more. She turned the screen again, a separate filing dated 4 months ago. A new name listed under Additional Capital Contribution, Non-Managing Member. Elijah R. Carter. Marcus stared at it the way you stare at a word in a language you used to speak but forgot. You know him? Renee asked. Marcus didn't answer right away either. The name sat in his chest like a stone dropped down a well, and he was still waiting to hear it hit bottom. That's my father, he said. I haven't seen him since I was 4. Renee was quiet for a second, professional quiet, not sympathetic quiet. He's listed as a $60,000 contributor. Expansion capital, second location, Decatur. $60,000. More than triple what Marcus had put in across 3 years of double shifts, and it had taken Elijah Carter 4 months to dwarf him on paper. I need copies of everything, Marcus said, the original agreement, before the amendment. Renee was already printing. You have a copy from when it was filed in 2021. I have everything, Marcus said, cloud drive, recipe notes, the original split. She never changed the password because I set it up. Renee looked at him over her glasses, the first real reaction she let show, not pity, something closer to recalculation, like she was now looking at a different kind of client than she'd thought walked in. Then you're not as cut out as she thinks, she said. Marcus didn't smile. He gathered the printed pages, squared them on the desk, and said the only thing he had left to say. I need to know who Elijah Carter is now, not who he was. He left Renee's office and sat in his truck in the strip mall lot, pulled up his phone, and typed the name into a search bar with hands that didn't shake the way he expected them to. The first result was a write-up from Atlanta Eater. Elijah Carter, restaurateur, 3 properties across metro Atlanta, expanding into catering through a strategic boutique partnership on the South Side. There was a photo. Marcus hadn't seen his father's face in 30 years, and he recognized it anyway, the way you recognize a scar you forgot you had until someone points at it. He didn't drive to confront anyone. He drove past the boutique on Memorial Drive a second time, slower this time, and watched through the front glass as Kayla restocked the display case like nothing in her life had changed, while 60 miles of his own life sat folded in trash bags in the bed of his truck. Denise Patterson worked the counter at Kayla's kitchen table 3 days a week, and she agreed to meet Marcus at a Waffle House on Moreland Avenue only because he caught her before her shift in the parking lot, before she had time to think of a reason not to. She slid into the booth across from him, still in scrubs, and didn't bother with small talk. I'm not picking sides, she said first. I'm telling you that because if you came here for me to trash her, I'm leaving. I came here because nobody's told me anything, Marcus said. I just want to know what I'm looking at. Denise turned her coffee cup a quarter turn. There's a man, she said, been coming in after close since around February. Older, drives a black Range Rover, parks it around back like he doesn't want it seen from the street. Kayla calls him her investor. He ever say a name? Elijah Carter. The restaurant noise, grill hissing, a waitress calling an order, kept going around him while everything inside him went still. He's my father, Marcus said, left when I was 4. Haven't said 2 words to him since. Denise didn't apologize, didn't reach for his hand. She sat with it for a second the way you sit with bad news that isn't yours but lands on you anyway. I didn't know that, she said. I swear I didn't know that. Did Kayla? Denise hesitated, and that hesitation told him more than anything she could have said next. She knew your daddy's name was Elijah. You told her that yourself a long time ago, before y'all even moved in together. Marcus remembered the conversation. A porch, a bottle of wine, him talking about his childhood in the loose, unguarded way you talk in year 1 of a relationship, before you learn what gets used against you. She knew, he said, mostly to himself. I don't think she went looking for him on purpose, Denise said. I think he found her. He's been buying up catering accounts on the south side for 2 years. No way he didn't see your name on an invoice and put it together himself. Marcus sat with that. A man who hadn't called him on a single birthday in 3 decades had gone digging through his life looking for a door back in, and the door he'd found was the one Marcus built with his own hands and his own money. Denise checked the clock above the counter and stood to leave for her shift. "I gotta go," she said. "And Marcus, when this comes out, and it's gonna come out, I need you to remember I told you because you asked, not because I wanted to hurt her." "I'm not asking you to pick a side," Marcus said. "I already know whose side everybody's on." He sat alone in the booth after she left, pulled out his phone, and typed his father's name into the search bar a second time, looking for the one thing that mattered now. Who else hated this man enough to help take him down? Dorothy E. Taunton ran her catering company out of a converted warehouse on Joseph E. Lowry Boulevard, and when Marcus called her office asking for a meeting about Elijah Carter, she didn't ask why. She just told him to come Thursday at 9, before her kitchen staff arrived. She was white, 60-something, sleeves rolled to the elbow when he walked in, going over invoices like a woman who trusted numbers more than people. "Your Webb," she said, not looking up. "I know the name. You financed that boutique on Memorial Drive. You know my father, too." That got her attention. She set the invoices down. "Elijah Carter has underbid me on 11 contracts in 2 years, she said. "Country club galas, 2 hospital fundraisers, a wedding that should have been mine. He doesn't win on quality. He wins because he's got capital I don't, and he uses it like a hammer." Marcus set the folder on her desk. The 2021 operating agreement, his name listed as financial backer, the recipe documentation with his grandmother's handwritten cards scanned alongside it, his own notes from the nights he and Kayla built the menu. Together at his kitchen table in Decatur, before either of them had a storefront. Dorothy read through it slower than Renee had, stopping twice to reread a page. "He's funding the woman who pushed you out," she said, using her business to expand into Decatur. "That's what this is." She closed the folder and looked at him the way you look at someone you're deciding whether to trust with money. "What do you want, Mr. Webb? Sympathy or a seat at a table?" "I want a brand," Marcus said, "built on what's actually mine. I want it moving before he knows it exists." Dorothy didn't smile, didn't shake his hand theatrically. She pulled a legal pad toward her and started writing numbers. "I take 60% of the new entity, you take 40, your name and your recipes are the product," she said. "I've got the kitchen space, the delivery contracts, the staff." 45, Marcus said. She considered it for exactly as long as it took to recheck the math in her head. 42, we move by July. Done. They named it Webb and Table that same morning, scrawled across the bottom of the legal pad. The 3 weeks after that weren't fast. Marcus kept his warehouse shift through the first 2. Dorothy insisted he have income while the new entity sat unfunded, and spent his days off in her office cold-calling planners who'd worked with her before. Listening to 4 voicemail boxes fill up before one called back. 2 of the 3 contacts Dorothy was sure about didn't return at all. The commercial kitchen space on Memorial Drive came with a landlord who wanted first and last plus a deposit Marcus didn't have liquid, and Dorothy fronted it against his future share without making it sound like charity. It was the 4th week before anything moved. A planner from the Spellman Gala called back, said she'd heard the boutique on Memorial Drive had changed hands behind the scenes, and wanted to know who was actually cooking now. Dorothy put Marcus on the phone himself. By the following Tuesday, the logistics company in College Park signed with Webb and Table instead of renewing with Kayla's kitchen table, citing a change in vendor relationship. In an email Marcus read twice, standing in his new empty kitchen, before he allowed himself to feel anything about it at all. By August, Kayla's kitchen table lost the College Park contract and didn't notice the pattern yet. By September, she lost the Spellman Gala and called it bad luck. Marcus heard about both from Dorothy. He didn't celebrate either one. He spent September building the Decatur menu around his grandmother's gumbo base, the one Kayla had renamed and put her own face next to on the boutique's Instagram for 2 years, and watched Webb and Tables order volume climb past anything the boutique had ever pulled. By October, the wedding planners stopped calling Kayla's kitchen table at all. Word in a small industry travels faster than apology ever could. The forged signature surfaced in November. Through the lease dispute Renee filed on the original 2021 agreement, a paperwork formality that required Kayla's signature be authenticated against the amendment. The handwriting expert's report took 11 days to come back. Renee called Marcus with the result on a Tuesday afternoon while he was portioning shrimp for a Thanksgiving order. He listened, said okay, and went back to portioning shrimp. Kayla's lawyer settled within a week rather than let the forgery finding become public record. The intellectual property reverted to Marcus outright, recipes, brand language, the original split, and the boutique's insurance carrier, hearing about pending litigation, declined to renew her liability policy for the following year. Elijah Carter's name came up once more in December. In an Atlanta Business Chronicle piece about his Decatur expansion stalling, investors pulling commitments after a competitor's rapid growth made the projected market share numbers look optimistic. The article didn't mention Marcus by name. He read it standing in his kitchen, closed the tab, and didn't open another article about his father again. Kayla's kitchen table filed its final lease default notice in January. The storefront on Memorial Drive sat empty for 2 months before a phone repair shop took over the space. Marcus drove past it once in February on his way to a wholesale supplier, not out of his way, just on the route, and didn't slow down. Webb and Tables signed its 100th catering contract the second week of February, a wedding at the Biltmore Ballroom downtown, and Marcus worked the kitchen that night the same way he'd worked every shift before any of this started, sleeves rolled. Hands moving, no one watching him do it for credit. Dorothy found him near midnight, plating the last tray, and asked if he wanted to say something to the staff about hitting the 100 mark. No, Marcus said, just send the next order ticket. She handed it to him. He read it once, set it on the steel counter, and started the next dish. He drove home after close, past 1 a.m., to the one-bedroom off Candler Road he'd signed the lease on himself in July. His name only, nobody else's, the first lease he'd ever held alone. The settlement check from Kayla's attorney sat on his kitchen counter where it had sat for 9 days, uncashed. He'd read the number once and never looked at it again. What he did look at most nights before bed was the framed copy of the 2021 operating agreement hanging in the hallway by the door. The original, the real signature, his name typed where it had always belonged. Renee had offered to get it laminated for him as a joke. He'd had it framed instead. He didn't think about Kayla. He didn't think about his father. He turned off the hallway light, the agreement going dark behind glass, and went to bed for the 4 hours he had before the next order came in.